I just lost her so fast. Yeah, it just like totally broke my heart.
It's one of the most severe cases that I've ever seen.
She was just gone. She could stop eating food. She developed tics and OCD and all her speech when all her motor skills when she couldn't feed herself anymore. Her hair fell out and she had rashes all over. We just couldn't really go anywhere. And she wouldn't let me like move from her side. So if I was sitting in the room and they tried to go into the other room, she'd just scream and like panic.
The amount of times where she just wanted to give up and I had to pull her back and we had to face some of the darkest moments of her life together.
I need to thank you because when I started, I was just in like such a bad place because I'd just been doing it all alone. I just felt like I was alone because no one ever knew what I was talking about. And then when I spoke to you, like you just knew exactly what I was talking about and you never doubted what I was telling you.
When I started working with Danielle, I have to admit, I had serious doubts that we were going to get there. Her daughter was eating the walls. She was eloping, screaming, had no language. Danielle had 2 autistic children, and the amount of times where she just wanted to give up and I had to pull her back and we had to face some of the darkest moments of her life together.
She was everything to me. And now, like, this isn't Helen. I see her as 2 people. This one I've got is not Nancy. The one that I had before is Nancy.
No. Okay. Nancy, can you say Stick one sits really well alongside the other and make these Can you say the music?
I can't even describe the journey that we've been on together for the past year, and the fact that she wants to share this with you is huge because it's so personal. It's been so dramatic, and the changes in her children has happened 50% because of what we did with the practical turnaround process when it comes to understanding her unique triggers and removing them, and 50% of it has to do with the work that she's doing on her own trauma and her own healing as a young and as someone who's been through a lot in life. I am just so excited for you to meet Danielle, to hear her story, and to bring this hope to you, because if she could turn symptoms around that were that severe, and her child is not a young child, by the way, she is now in school, and the way that she's living a neurotypical life now is just mind-blowing. Now remember, before you tune into this podcast, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional, I'm not here to diagnose or treat or make any promises that this is possible for you. I'm simply bringing you the stories to bring you hope through other moms' words and experiences. So there's no guarantee that this will happen to you if you start working with me, but I want to bring this story to you along with all the other stories from moms who turned symptoms around, because there's not a lot of them out there, and that is because we're focusing on the wrong things. We're focusing on the children and the symptoms. We're focusing on trying to get the symptoms removed rather than understanding what is it that these symptoms actually want us to change. What is God's plan in all this? And the New Age spiritual healing and fitness and wellness industries have completely confused and stressed out moms of autistic children. It's time to put an end to that. And we're doing it one story at the time. Now, meet Danielle. She is a mom of a lot of children from England, and she's here to tell you her story.
I've got 5 children, and I started my 2 youngest ones who are 6 and 4 now. Yeah, that's why I joined really. We've been doing quite a bit of biomedical stuff and what was we call Western medicine, normal attacks and stuff. for a long time before we came here now.
Yeah, and you're in the UK, you work as well. This is not your full-time thing. And I think that's quite important because that says something about your dedication too. So what's your job?
I just work in a store, but I only do 15 hours a week now.
Danielle, take me back to before you started the turnaround process, when things were quite dark. What symptoms were you dealing with? What happened in your life? Because you've got 2 children who are on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Tell me about what happened with them and how you found out that something wasn't quite right.
With my oldest daughter, she was like neurotypical. There was some sign early on, but she was okay. And then she developed allergies and different things, but she developed fine. She was talking, she was singing, she was playing, she was just like all my other children. And then just before she was 2, she just regressed quite quickly and like quite badly. She just started screaming all the time. She just had terrible stomach pain. She could stop eating food. She developed tics and OCD, and all her speech went, all her motor skills went. She couldn't feed herself anymore. Her hair fell out, and she had rashes all over. She was just reacting to anything that touched her skin, the patch and things like that. Yeah, so she regressed. But she regressed when my little boy was born around the same time, and he was just born with gut issues as well. So from birth, he has, gut inflammation and things. So yeah, that was basically when it started.
Yeah. So that's when your life took a turn. And we actually have pictures that we can show. Take me through a day with the symptoms. Describe to me, if I'm a fly on the wall, what did that look like? What did they do? And how did it make you feel?
I just started like panicking with Nancy. Yeah, I just didn't really know what to do, to be honest. She'd look at her hands, she'd stare at her hands all the time. And like she was looking at something and she would just be like, she'd come over to me and she'd spin my hair repetitively and she'd spin like the blindfolds and she'd do this like weird march where she'd march like in a little routine. It was really, and she'd just stand and pull like all the leaves off the tree all the time. We couldn't walk past like certain places without her doing things.
So what kind of life was that for you? When you went somewhere, did she run away? Could she follow
Oh,
you?
yeah. No, she would just run. She was not coming back. And she'd just leg it and I'd have to grab her because she would just run into the roads and she didn't have any awareness of any danger and stuff. Even on the climbing frames, she would have just jumped off. Yes, I couldn't really let her out of my eyesight. And with the baby as well, that was hard because she was like screaming most of the time in the beginning. And so he was like screaming all the time as well, just because he didn't like her screaming. And we just couldn't really go anywhere. So we were mostly in the house. Oh, and she wouldn't let me like move from the side. So if I was sitting in the room and they tried to go into the other room, she'd just scream and like panic. So we were basically like glued together a lot. But yeah, wasn't ideal.
What kind of OCD and other symptoms did she have? What was her obsessions?
Throwing stones or throwing anything actually. She would just constantly throw stones, and we went to this duck pond and she was getting the stones off the side to throw at the ducks, but there was like massive rocks, so I had to stop her obviously. I couldn't let her do that. And she was just going mad because she just had to throw these stones. Like anywhere we'd go, she just had to pick the stones up and she just had to throw them just anywhere, basically. That was something she just had to do. And so like when you get them little like grids and stuff, she'd have to step on, step off, step on, step off, step. And then if I tried to move her off the grid, she would go mad. She just wouldn't do it. And then she had one of her tics she had quite a few tics that changed over time, but one of her tics was just like a head turning tic with a blink. So she'd be like that all the time. It was just like a constant. And she got like vocal tics and yeah, just a lot of them that changed.
And what about the health issues? I'm thinking for those who are watching this as a YouTube video, you'll be able to, and you can also go to the page, the podcast page, to see the pictures, but describe what we are seeing in the pictures of Nancy before. Because it's two different, honestly, it's two different persons to look at.
But she regressed. Yeah, she was just gone. She doesn't even look like the same child. She just got like all sores all over her skin, and she had really pale skin. Her skin was just really white all the time with the big black circles under her eyes. And obviously her hair was like falling out. She had a big bald patch on the top of her head. Skin was all split as well, all on her feet, because she struggled to walk. Then I remember I was saying, I just wanted to be able to walk, because she couldn't walk. She was in a lot of pain. With her feet, and all her hands were split open near her fingers. Yeah, her health was just not good. And she wasn't eating many foods, because every time she ate the foods, she would just scream in pain, and she would just basically throw out water. Yeah, and she'd just cry.
Yeah, so nothing was really absorbed. And obviously, as a mom, you just want to do everything in your power to help your child. And that led you to a lot of stress, because you went to all these Facebook groups and you become you became a researcher. So what did you try that didn't get you to where you wanted to be?
We tried like everything. So we tried the fail-safe diet, that actually worked for a little bit until it didn't work anymore. We tried NemCheck, but that didn't work because she started messing in their poo. So I stopped that one quite quickly. And what other ones did we try? Oh, we obviously cut all the usual, like the gluten and dairy and soy, eggs, oats. We cut loads of things actually, because she was screaming at all foods, so I just never knew. And she was coming out in hives of all foods, just touching her skin. So I was just trying anything, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You were in a
tried
lot of
stuff.
Facebook groups and learning from other moms as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we were in like a Pandas group. I'm pretty much in all of them. I think I was just trying to learn, and over obviously the year when she went really bad, we got like quite a lot of just diagnoses of different things. And so I joined them groups, and yeah, it just all piled on. But I ended up in all these WhatsApp groups, which just stressed me out more, because there's like hundreds of messages a day, or like just basically talking about symptoms in their children. And yeah, they just stressed me out more, because I was hard to keep up with them, to be honest.
And on top of that, you have this other child who's also developing symptoms. Tell us a little bit about that.
So so when he was born, he was just gut issues from birth. He was like just really struggling to like him. And then he just developed a milk allergy, the same as her. And then he was allergic to the other milk that he was put on. So he went on to another one. And yeah, he was still struggling. He was still coming out in hives and things. And sometimes, like when I look back at pictures, the first maybe, I don't know, maybe the first year or so, he looks all right with his eye contact and everything. But he never developed any speech or gestures or anything, which my other children had by that point. But then he obviously screamed all the time anyway. And then he was getting infections. And when he was getting infections, he wasn't getting a temperature. And yeah, I knew what that meant. I don't know. With him, it's a little harder, because with her, there was like a definite regression. And with him, there wasn't really the progression to begin with. To notice the regression, do you know what I mean? There's a little bit of a change when he had antibiotics, but not the major change with her. Yeah, he just never really developed the skills like her.
Tell us how they're doing now.
There's yeah, she's doing really good. So all their ACD symptoms have gone, and her skin's all healed. She's not on any of her medication anymore. It's beautiful. It's all growing back. She's happy. Her tics have gone a year ago. We were looking at school for her, and she was just too bad for like mainstream school. And so we were looking at a special needs school, but we decided to keep her at home for a year. Yeah, when she went to school this year, I went looking back at the special needs schools, because I just assumed that she would still need to go there, but they didn't. They said no. They said she was too good for the special needs schools. So she's in mainstream now. And she's doing really good. You wouldn't even know she had anxiety, because she just runs to school really happy. And she's really feisty as well, so it's really bossy. She doesn't stay all day because she doesn't want to, and that's okay. Like, I don't push her, and the schools don't push her. But no, she does really good.
Yeah,
Yeah, we started
video
speaking
that
as well.
you're walking her to school like just a typical day, and she's in front of you. She doesn't elope. She doesn't run away. It's
No,
like
no.
a normal situation, right?
Yeah, like she just walks on the road and she stops at the road and she checks for cars herself. And she just does anything I ask. You know, if I'm like, Nancy, go and get your shoes, she runs and she gets her shoes, she grabs her socks and she'll go to the coat. She runs and gets the coat. Yeah, it's just really good. And now, obviously, she started saying words, which has only come like really recently. And I've waited for that for a long time like now. But yeah, she's doing really good with that too. She said to me the other day, she was like, coffee, cuddle, blanket. And she wanted me to get a coffee for myself, obviously, because I love coffee. I did give that up once, but yeah, I got back on it. And yeah, she wanted to sit and have a cuddle under the blanket on the couch with me. And I was just like,
Just to give you an example, an illustration of how long this journey has been. These are messages from Danielle to me and messages from me to her. When she's been working with me as my one-to-one client, I've been available, and whenever she came up against a challenge or a symptom or felt like giving up, I was there for her. And it hasn't always been easy. Don't think that this journey is easy. When you're going through regression, Danielle's child, she was normal, and then she regressed and she disappeared. She started eating the walls. She disappeared, and that was really hard. That's why it took us so long to go through all the trauma, to go through all the healing needed for her mom to work through this and become an expert by lived experience. This is what it looked like when we were working through this.
When you say what do I think, that's a pretty hard question because I think quite a lot. The way I see it, there's two ways out of this for me. One is Nancy gets better. I won't live a life where Nancy isn't better. So maybe that's why I'm impatient.
she was like making a little sentence just without the joining words. What?
Yeah. And the more people say, oh, Danielle just sticks to the way she is, or she's doing that because it helps or whatever, the more I hear and I've just pushed everyone away from me because
she's doing really good.
I remember you said to me, because sometimes in the beginning of the process, I told you, we don't know how far we're going to get. We don't know that we're going to get her back. And if it's going to be a completely different Nancy. And I remember you got really upset with me. And you said, I am going to get her normalized.
Yeah.
How long has it taken, and what did it take from you to go through that turnaround process to get there? Because you started the program when?
It was nearly a year and a half ago.
Yeah. What did it take for you, Danielle? What's been the most surprising and challenging part of the turnaround process and program for you?
Oh gosh. The hardest bit for me was I would say it was probably staying, to be honest.
Staying
And
point. Why?
The chance of like my like trauma responses and things like that. I don't know, I just start getting it into my head, you know, like this is not right. I need to be doing something else, or you're better on your own, or anything really to just make me get away from it. And that's basically what I did the whole time before we started. So yeah, I start something, I pull it, and I start something else. It gives me a different doctor. It gives me like a neurologist, and he'd tell me something. I didn't like that. I used to be a gastroenterologist, and I didn't like what he was saying, so I found someone else. Yeah, that's not a good idea for me.
And I'll say, because I work with some really strong, feisty, intelligent women, as you can see, and Danielle is one of them. And from the outside, it will look like this woman, she's doing everything, and you are so intelligent. You're researching everything, and it looks like you've tried everything as well. And when you want to quit, you have all the good reasons why you should quit and try something else. But the underlying part of that is that if we are stressed and super intelligent as women, we have a resistance to change because our whole system will protest against change, even if change means what you have now with Nancy, peace. We can go to the woods, we can take her to school. She's no longer in special needs. She is communicating with you. You've got your life back. That is a massive change from all the chaos and all the symptoms.
Yeah.
So subconsciously, someone like that's as intelligent and strong and such a survivor as Danielle, she'll try and maintain status quo, and status quo for her was chaos and symptoms. So that's when you will do all the things, but you'll not get the results because you actually need to stick to all the things you don't want to do, which are the uncomfortable pain and being in a community, being around people, reaching out and needing other people. So that's the most common reason why women stop, is because they haven't understood their self-sabotage patterns. They haven't understood that innate surge and need for stagnation, because it becomes our safety. It becomes something we know really well. And when everything else is so stressful, our nervous system needs something that it can recognize, because you have literally turned your life upside down.
Oh gosh, like you have to change everything. Even at Christmas, I did not let her have anything. We had nothing in the house. It was just normal food because she doesn't do well with sugar at all, actually. And yeah, we had to just get rid of everything. We started going out every day, and we go like multiple times to the woods a day. And that was quite hard in the beginning because I had the double pram actually when I started. None of them was walk. They didn't have bottles and they both didn't walk. And now obviously we just go with both of them. But when I first started getting them off the tram, obviously they used to run off in different directions. That wasn't ideal. But it was pretty hard to be honest. But I don't know, I'd do anything. I was like giving all these rules, things we have to do, and he said to me, "Your dad was living in a cave," and he's right. My dad was living in a cave. If it made sure they were back, I would do that. You know what I mean? I would do anything.
Yeah, you are this, because there are quitters and there are moms who are not willing to put in that work and that time that you've put in. And it hasn't been easy all the way for you either. So let's talk about Joey. What's changed in him from that massive work that you put in?
Oh gosh, he has changed like a ridiculous amount. So I was actually surprisingly like more worried about him than I was her, because sometimes I would see like little snippets of her come back through the years. So I knew she was still there somewhere, and I just needed to know how to access it and whatever. And with him though, he never did anything. So I was just thinking he doesn't have a clue. And what am I going to do with him? And he would just sit there and he would do this thing with his fingers where he'd do that in front of his eyes. And he would spin and his eyes would be like in the corners of his head like that. As he's spinning, his eyes would just be there and he would just be like really pale. He drooled a lot as well, just drooling, constantly sitting there drooling. His diet was awful. He's such a picky eater, which I'm still working on that with him, but he is doing better. Yeah, he was just, I don't know, he just had nothing. He didn't speak, he didn't do no gestures, he didn't have no eye contact, he didn't respond to his name. There was just nothing with him. He was just in his own little world, lining little toys up. He didn't play cars, he just put them in line. Yeah, and then he's just come out of it. He's not in the same world anymore. He walks with us, obviously, and he stops when I tell him to. He runs really off really fast, and then I just shout him, and he stops when he comes back. And he just started reading one day, and he just picks up a book and started saying all the letters. And we got rid of all screens from our house. I didn't actually know how he knows that. But yeah, he just knew all his letters, and he knows all his numbers. He liked to read them all. And he's just like this 2 days ago, he started doing his timetables, just 2 timetables. He just started doing them all on his own. And he sings all the time, and he's attempting words more. Nancy's very good at like functional speech. Like she's really good. All her speeches like perfectly exactly what she wants. And he's a little more, he's really clever, but his functional speech isn't as good as her. Will like point and take you, and she'll really make sure you knew what she wants. He's quite gentle, and he's got a lot of speech, but just less functional at the moment. but that is coming as well. I know there's motor skills are back as well. Like you can do everything herself now as well. So that's good. And when she's toilet trained now as well, which she wasn't. Yeah, she's
So
toilet
toilet
That's
train.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are huge changes, Danielle. What would you say to moms who are in all the Facebook groups, chasing all the diets and the protocols and the supplements and the experts? What would you have said to yourself back then in order to understand the missing links? Because someone who's right there right now might need to hear that.
At the time, you think you're doing it all because you learn so much, and some of it's good, some of it's right, and but the stress that it puts on you and it takes you away from your children because you just constantly like researching. They'll react to that. Do you know what I mean? If I'm just sat on the phone all the time scrolling and scrolling, I notice that they react to it, and yeah, it'll just stress you out more. I didn't go on any of them groups anymore, actually. Just for that reason, really, I came out of all the WhatsApp groups because all the messages about everyone else's children was just too much for me. And he has enough going on at home. I didn't need everyone else's problems on top of it. And yeah, just when I started to Chris and myself and come away from that, then things start to change for us, like massively, do you know what I mean? But I would come out of all them groups. They just cause too much stress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you were to describe the autism turnaround program that you are part of to someone who doesn't know what it is at all, what would you say about it?
It's nothing like I've ever done before, so it's not like a course. It is in a way, but it's also like a lifestyle change, like you learn about yourself and just like changing things that you already know actually. So you know all this stuff, like deep down, but for some reason you don't do it, and changing your lifestyle, and obviously you have all the other mums with us, so you get that support. That's what you're looking for when you go into them groups. You're looking for support. You're looking for people who are in the same position as you, someone who knows what you're talking about, because most people don't know what you're talking about. So you're looking for that connection. And that's, even though sometimes I try and speak from it, that's a really a nice thing. That's something I really liked from it.
Yeah, I think you're describing it well. The goal is to get moms to where you are now and you're working towards perfecting, which is where you're the expert who can look at your children and you can see symptoms and you no longer think, oh, here's a symptom. Who can help me get rid of that symptom? Where's the expert? Where's the supplement? Where's the diet? What caused it? But where you actually, it's more like a language where you can interpret it and you adjust the diet, the lifestyle, your own walk with yourself and God and other people, because your nervous system affects it so much. And you adjust and then you monitor and then you change things. So instead of looking for experts, you become an expert by lived experience. So I think that's sometimes what's difficult for survivors and strong women is to understand that we cannot heal or help or change our children to any level or in any dark corner that we haven't explored or changed or understood and healed in ourselves. So that's why some moms run away as well and don't finish the work, because it is so much us as mothers, not to blame us, but to understand how much our leadership really matters. So you have other children that have no symptoms.
Yeah.
You've been dealing with the many symptoms and the amount of attention that you've had to give these children that are struggling, and maybe the bad consciousness about the children that are like left in the corner. I'm asking you because I had a sibling in the shadow and I still feel bad about that sometimes. So it would be really, I'm curious to hear how you're handling that.
That's something that's really hard for me. And the bit that upset you, I give it a cry.
Yeah, it hurts. I know.
They like, they asked me, before I started this course, actually, they like, they would say to me, like, Mummy, when will we get Nancy back? And I didn't know how to answer it because you don't have like lied to them or anything. But I didn't want to say anything. I didn't know the answers. And they took up so much time. Before she regressed, we would do everything together. Yeah, we do everything together. And then when she regressed and stuff, we just did, we separated. One would take the older children and one would take the two babies, or we'd save the babies. And
Yeah.
they didn't get my time really. So it was mostly the dad doing stuff with them and I had to do with the babies because they actually screamed for him as well. So it was only just me that they wanted. I have a lot of guilt about that, and they grew up really fast. Now I still make sure I do everything with them. So there's barely no nights a week where we don't do anything. They do like swimming, football, dance, and guitar, running. They do everything. I make sure that they don't miss out. But I do have a lot of guilt still. But they love them now. Now that she's speaking, they just love us so much. And they actually said to me at the time, she said, "Oh, Mummy, we're getting Nancy back, aren't we?" And I was like, "Yeah, we are." And yeah, they sleep together. That's really cute. Ali wanted to sleep with her and they'll snuggle in bed now. But I have a lot of guilt, but at the same time, my other children have become really, really caring. And I have a brother actually with special needs, and like I know how it changes your life, but I wouldn't change that because it changes you. And I think that the same for them. They've just changed in a really good way. Their hearts are just so big now, and
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
resource.
I don't
It
know.
gives you resources.
Yeah,
It really does. And what's possible for you when you look into the future now compared to when Joey and Nancy had a lot of symptoms and they were really ill? What's possible now when you look into the future that you couldn't see happening before?
I don't know. I just thought I was going to end up being this carer. Do you know what I mean? That was not a life I wanted. I knew that doesn't sound ideal, but I just wanted a normal life with my children, and I couldn't see any way out of it really because nothing worked. But now I don't see any. I didn't see any problems. I said to you I was going to get her back to do that. I said that to you. There was no doubt in my mind that I was going to do it because I was not going to live that life. And yeah, now I'm not worried about it. Things still happen, and because she missed out on a lot of years where she should have been developing and everything, she does still have some struggles and things, but she's just amazing, to be honest. And Jeremy, I don't worry about him at all. Yeah, we just don't have any worries for the future now.
And
They're not off
for
fire.
me, you're such a role model for moms because you have 5 children. You have a job. You have worked on yourself diligently, even when it was horrible and even when you wanted to give up. And for so long, you are not a quitter. And I think that's something that's a takeaway message that yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, it's hard when we're in that dark phase of autism. It's equally hard when we're trying to pull out our children. You did it for 2 kids. And we face all our darkness, all our blind spots. But on the other side, there is so much hope and light, and God is so good in showing us the way when we actually lean into this process. I use you as an example when people say, I can't go outside, or I have 2 kids. You're such a warrior, and I think that's what it takes. I admire you so much, Danielle. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, I'm grateful to you, Phil.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you feel is important to say to these moms?
I'm sure like a lot of the mums, they get a lot of the testing done, like eyes, nose, and when I started with you, I had practitioners as well, but I dropped them all. I dropped everyone actually. But yeah, I didn't think so. She was testing high, obviously, for metals, all metals. She's high in loads of them. She was high in all the bad bacteria, you know. I'm sure all the children are. She was high in inflammation. She was high in mold. She was high in oxalates. And I just got so fed up with doing every test that always came out positive. And I was just like, I knew that was going to happen because every test that I get, it says she's got it. And it ends up making you panic more because where do you even start with that? But yeah, now I don't worry about what the tests say. We haven't had any more testing done, or we don't follow any protocols or anything like that. There's no need to really go and do all that stuff. I think probably it just adds to stress.
What I see you doing is that you're walking, you're taking instructions, you're learning how to understand yourself, you're following God's instructions, and you're coming to a place of peace. And peace is what creates healing. So you're living the way that God intended us to live.
I think that's actually really important. I like that one, the moods, you like the getting out in nature. And I told you why that's the most important one, but
Yeah.
that's the one that was good.
So let that be an inspiration. If you're out there, if you have a child who's running ill, not eating, not digesting, and all the tests come back negative, you're losing your sleep, your marriage is falling apart, even though it looks hopeless, let this be a testament to how great God is and how much we can do when we do less. But
Yeah.
do what is, because every child is different. Every child's needs are individual, and these needs change all the time, which is why protocols don't make sense. So we
Yeah.
really need to be able to look at our children and adjust according to that incredible design. We're fearfully and wonderfully made, so let's live like it. So thank you so much, Danielle. You're really a role model to so many moms and bring so much hope to them too. Thank you for letting me have a window into your life and your heart. And yeah, let's continue the journey. See you.
Thank you.
I hope this episode gave you hope, gave you aha moments, gave you insights, made you wonder about what's actually going on with the way that we look at autism, think about autism, and approach autism, whether it is recovery focused, turnaround focused, or mainstream. Something has to change. And I think Danielle's story really helps just sharpen our senses and change our focus and align it with God's plan. If this has triggered something in you where you're curious and you want to start understanding more about your child's triggers, and if it has ignited a hope in you that you can do something similar, go to barefootautismwarriors.com/podcasts and to take a look at the before and after pictures. It's crazy. And on that page, I'll also link to and give you easy access to a link for my email so that we can start talking about your child and your situation and what might be going on, what might be a really good next step for you. Because every child is different. Their needs change all the time. If you continue to give your child the same things, the same food, the same supplements, and you have the same approach all throughout the year and all throughout the months and all throughout the week, you miss out because their needs change all the time, which is why we have to become really good at reading our children, just like understanding a language and adjusting our approach according to that feedback that we're getting. That's how God designed us. That's how God instructs through our body via the Holy Spirit. What's the right foods? What's the right approach? Who are good for us? Who are bad for us? And many times, because we are not right, we're not walking in integrity with God, self, and others, we don't have that discernment. And that's why when we work through this in my program, we really see God and we increase your relationship with God. And my main job is actually to remove the distractions, to get you to understand your self-sabotage mechanisms, to get you to understand the many times that you're distracting yourself because you have been so detached from your body and from the truth and from God and from understanding God's design in nature and in your body and for healing and parenting. That's what we need to return to. That's actually what takes the most of the time that we work together, is to remove all the things that's standing between you and peace, you and health, and you and healing. So I would love to work with you if that's something that you are willing to do, that type of deep work. Send me an email, contact@barefootautismwarriors.com, or go to the website barefootautismwarriors.com and explore. Connect with me on Instagram. I love to hear from you there. Please give me some stars wherever you're listening to this podcast. Send me a review. It really means a lot to me. I read it, I share it, and I would love to hear from you on Instagram as well, in my inbox there, or you can join my Facebook group, Barefoot Autism Warriors, as well. Let's stay connected, and until next time, stay curious and stay awake.